Okay, so hashtag girl problems. See this? I'm wearing a bra, and this side just snap, and I had to go fix it, but it's not even fixed. I had to tie it on this side. So things I do for videos. Okay, I'm kidding. Anyway, last chapter. Mitch finally gave Victor what was coming to him. That was epic. If that's not in the movie, I'm gonna be so upset. Actually, no. If Victor's not in the movie, I won't be upset. I'll be like, oh, yeah, okay, fine. Okay. Chapter 17. Hold up a sec. Try to move this. Readjust. It's 4 a.m. Jesus Christ. I have to get a shower too. Okay. Chapter 17. Lewis made the calls late in the afternoon after he'd had an hour to put his thoughts and observation down on paper. As darkness approached, they descended one by one on the house by the lake in Southern Virginia. Kennedy was the first to arrive, then Deputy Director of Operations Stansfield, and finally Hurley. Hurley, you're back! Hey, buddy! Stansfield's bodyguards remained on the porch. They were two of his most trusted and knew to be very selective about what they saw, and more important, about what they remembered. Say what? Stansfield suggested in his typical way, quiet way, that they all adjourn to the basement. It was not a suggestion, it was an order. The four of them walked downstairs and proceeded to a freestanding room that sat in the middle of the basement. It served as the surveillance communications shack for the property. The inside walls and ceiling were covered with an egg carton gray foam that absorbed sound. A bank of monitors and 2 listening stations occupied the wall on the right, and an oval conference table for 6 sat in the middle. When everyone was seated, Stansfield closed the soundproof door and threw the bolt. The number 3 man at Langley took the chair at the head of the table and loosened his tie. He looked the length of the short table and said, "Doctor?" Lewis was leaning back in his chair, his hands steepled in front of his face. "We've had an interesting development." "I'd say so," Hurley interrupted, unable to contain himself. "I heard one of my instructors is out of commission for 6 months. 3 titanium pins in his arm, for Christ's sake. He was one of my best." Hurley held up the appropriate number of fingers to punctuate his point. 3 pins! Was I right? Was Victor an inside? If I was right, I'm so happy. Please tell me I was right. Please tell me I was right. Oh my gosh. The doctor's bright blue eyes locked in on Hurley with the kind of all-knowing stare that could be flashed only by a spouse or a therapist. The message was clear. "I know you better than you do yourself. Shut up and let me speak." "Sorry," Hurley apologized half-heartedly. "Irene's recruit has proven himself quite capable." Lewis directed his comments at Stansfield. "You heard what he did to Stan earlier in the week?" "No." Stansfield turned his inquisitive gaze on Hurley. "The bruising on your face, that was caused by this Rapp fellow." The swelling was down, and the bright red bruising had turned dark purple with a yellow tinge. Hurley shrugged his shoulders. "I made a mistake. It won't happen again." "You got thumped by a college kid with no military experience," Kennedy said. "I still can't get over it." Lewis interceded before Hurley could blow his lid. Looking at Stansfield, he said, "Let me give you the narrative." Lewis explained in detail what had transpired during the opening minutes of Rapp's arrival at the complex. Hurley tried to interrupt twice, but Lewis shut him down with an open palm. Stansfield, for his part, listened in total silence. Kennedy had nothing new to add, and knew how Stansfield hated too many people talking, so she kept her information to herself. In situations like this, Hurley was more than capable of scuttling his own ship. Please tell me I was right about Victor. Now to Victor, Lewis said, turning his gaze from Stansfield to Hurley. I have made it very clear from the outset that I am not on board with your methods of deception. Please tell me I was right. I know you have, Hurley said, and in your theoretical world, I'm sure your points have merit. But this is where the rubber meets the road. I don't have all day to dick around with these kids. I need to know who has the goods, and the sooner I find out, the better. And using your system, how many men have you found thus far? Kennedy asked, unable to resist. My concerns, Lewis said forcefully, are centered on building a relationship of trust. And if we introduce deceit into the training... It's not training, Hurley said with a scowl. This is selection, and besides, this is what we do for a living. We deceive people. If these kids don't understand that, they have no business signing up with us. I was right about Victor, wasn't I? There is a major difference between deceiving each other and deceiving our enemy. Again, strong relationships are built on trust. We can work on the deception part later. This is bullshit, Hurley said defensively. You two come and go as you please, but I'm the guy down here 24/7 playing nursemaid. I don't pretend to know how to do your jobs. Do me a favor and stop trying to pretend you know how to do mine. You are so thin-skinned, Kennedy said with a tone of open contempt. Yeah, well, young lady, this is serious shit. It ain't amateur hour. We recruit our candidates from the best of the best, and that means special forces and spec ops guys. It doesn't mean some amateur who doesn't know the right end of a rifle from his ass, or how to navigate his way through the woods in the dead of night, or 1,000 other things. Are terrorists living in the woods these days? Kennedy asked, making it clear she was mocking him. The last time I checked, they were urban dwellers, so I'm not so sure knowing how to start a fire with a knife and belt buckle qualifies you to hunt terrorists. Don't talk to me about training. You have no idea what it takes to turn these guys into killers. Apparently, you don't either. Well, at least I know how to recruit, which is more than I can say for you. And what exactly is that supposed to mean? It means you didn't do your job. I did a little reconnaissance on my own the past few days. Do you know where our boy spent the last few months? He was staying at his mother's house in McLean. Yeah, and spending his days hanging out in a dojo in Arlington. And what, pray tell, would be wrong with that? I told him he would need to be in shape, and it would be a good idea to start taking some judo lessons. Yeah, well, I spoke to his sensei. You did what? Kennedy was irked that he had gone behind her back. I went in and had a conversation with his sensei. After going around with him on the mat, I could tell something wasn't right. What? Kennedy looked to Stansfield for help. He had no right to do that. It's my recruit. I have worked almost 2 years on bringing him in and haven't left a single trail. No one in his life knows that we are interested in him. And they still don't, Hurley said dismissively. Really? How in hell did you introduce yourself? I told him I was a trainer from Richmond. Said I went around with this young kid named Rapp and was very impressed. I wanted to talk to his sensei what he thought. I wanted to ask his sensei what he thought. And, Lewis asked, suddenly interested, the kid didn't pass the smell test. His sensei says he came in 3 months ago and claimed he had almost no experience. Within a month and a half, he had throttled everybody in the dojo except the sensei. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? Lewis asked. Yeah, how'd you know? I saw him take Victor down today. The style is hard to miss. So he comes in here and almost beats me, bests me, and then he snaps Victor's elbow. I'm telling you, the kid isn't who he says he is. Stansfield's patience was wearing thin. Be more specific. I'm not sure, but it doesn't feel right. What, you think he's a plant? A spy? Wait a minute, I want to say that again. What, you think he's a plant? A spy? Kennedy asked in a mocking tone. I'm not sure, I'm just telling you he doesn't pass the smell test. You can't get that good that quick. Kennedy looked at Stansfield. Let's cut to the chase. He doesn't like him because he's my recruit. She sat back and folded her arms across her chest. He's a misogynist. I don't like him because I don't know who the hell he is. We need to know everything there is to know about these guys before we bring them in. That's why military experience is a must. That way, we know exactly what they've been doing for a minimum of 4 years. And how is that working out for us, Stan? Kennedy shot back. We don't have a single operative in the pipeline, and we've been at this for almost 2 years. I'm well aware that I have failed to produce. Painfully freaking aware. But that doesn't mean I'm going to rush things and have something this important blow up in our faces. Lewis, in a neutral tone, asked, Stan, what is your problem with Rapp? He took a while to answer and finally said, I can't put my finger on it. It's more of a feeling. A bad feeling. Okie dokie. Do you know what I think it is? Kennedy asked. 2 things. First, I think you have major control issues. You can't stand the fact that you weren't involved in recruiting him. And second, you feel threatened. What? Hurley's face was twisted into a mask of confusion. He's you. He's the man you were 40 years ago, and it scares the crap out of you. Hurley shook his head dismissively. That's bullshit. Really? Well, I can say the same thing about your gut feeling. It's bullshit. What do you think the PLO planted him in a DC? What? Do you think the PLO planted him in a DC or suburb 23 years ago? Raised him Catholic and sent him off to Syracuse to play lacrosse? Or do you think it was the KGB before the Soviet Union collapsed, and now he's a rogue, deep-cover operative? Ridiculous. Kennedy dismissed the ludicrous idea with a flip of her right hand. You're clutching at straws. No one moved or spoke for 5 seconds. While Kennedy's stinging remarks set in, Lewis finally said, She has a point. He pushed back his chair and stood. I'd like to show you something. I sat down and talked with him before all of you arrived. I think you will find this very interesting. Lewis approached the surveillance control board and pressed a few buttons. A black and white image of Rapp appeared on the screen. He was sitting in the office on the first floor. Lewis's voice came over the speakers. He was off screen to the right. That was unfortunate. What happened this afternoon? Rapp sat still for a few seconds and then nodded. Do you feel bad at all about what you did to Victor? It took him a long time to answer, and then he said, We're all big boys here. So you feel no remorse? I wish it hadn't happened, but Victor isn't exactly the nicest guy. I see. Is it possible that you intentionally broke his arm? Intentionally is a strong word. We were sparring, and one thing led to another. The thing that led to the other was you snapping his arm before he could tap out. I'm not sure he would have tapped out. You could be kicked out for what happened. Why? Sergeant Smith thinks you intentionally broke Victor's arm. I don't see how that would be fair. No one said anything about what holds we could use or not use. We were supposed to stay away from the head and the groin. That was it. If you intentionally broke another recruit's arm, that would be grounds for dismissal. Rapp looked at the floor for a long moment and then said, I don't like playing all these games. Games? Yeah, games. How do you mean? You know what I'm talking about. I'm not sure I do. That file on your desk the other day? Rapp pointed to the clear surface. The file with my name on it? What about it? You were testing me. Really? Yes, Rapp said in an easy tone. I've seen the way you monitor what's going on around here. You study everything. Rapp gestured at the desk. You're not the kind of guy who leaves sensitive files lying around unless there's a reason. I'm sure this place is wired for video and sound. Rapp motioned toward the bookshelf and then the overhead light. When you asked to see me a few days ago, and I was left sitting in here by myself for 15 minutes, you were probably sitting up in the attic or down in the basement watching me, testing me to see if I would open the file and read what was in it. Rapp is smart. Lewis could be heard clearing his throat and then saying, Even if that were true, I don't see it excuses your breaking Victor's arm. I never said it excused anything. What I said is that you're playing games with us. You leave files lying around, tell us one set of rules, and then let Victor break them. You were in the barn. How was it okay for Victor to punch Fred in the face? We will deal with that separately. This is about what you did. I saw the way you reacted when Victor punched Fred in the nose. Rapp paused and looked down at his hands. Do you know what I think? I think Victor doesn't fit in. How so? Based on what I've seen since I've been here, there are just two logical conclusions where Victor is concerned. Either Victor is a recruit just like the rest of us, or he's part of your evaluation process. Part of the process? He works for you guys. He's one of the instructors. That's what I said! And he's right, because it confirmed it earlier, but I'm so happy I got that right. I was like, he works, he's in with everyone. I didn't have the right word for it, but I knew. Anyway, where was I? And why would we do that? So you get a closer look at us. You put Victor in with us, and his job is to tempt us into making mistakes. Ask us who we are and where we're from. Try to get the guys to screw up so you can get rid of the guys who don't have the discipline. Interesting. Either way, it isn't good. If I understand this program correctly, Victor is not the kind of guy you're looking for. So if he is a recruit, and you guys can't see that, I'm not sure I want to work for people who can't grasp the obvious. And if he's one of the instructors, it's a pretty effed up way to train disciplined men. Let's assume you're correct for a second. Knowing all that, you decided to break his arm. Rapp shook his head. I had my suspicions before, but I wasn't sure. After I broke his arm, I saw the way you and the other instructors reacted, and I pretty much knew he was one of you. There was a good 5 seconds of silence, and then Lewis asked, Do you think you have a good moral compass? Such a weird question. Rapp let out a small laugh. Here we go with your vague questions. Exactly! What the hell, Lewis? I know, but please try to answer this one. You mean, do I understand the difference between right and wrong? Yes. Rapp hesitated. I would say pretty much yes. But here, at this place, it seems like that line keeps getting moved. Can you give me an example? That angry old cuss, the one my recruiter warned me about? Well, I'm not here 5 minutes, and the two of us end up in the barn. He's telling me to quit and save all of us the effort. I tell him no, and suggest we should find out if I have what it takes. He very clearly tells me that the head and groin are off limits while we spar. We lock horns, and 20 seconds into it, I have him beat. He was about 2 seconds from blacking out when he grabbed my nuts and practically turned me into a eunuch. A eunuch? He never said anything to me about it. In fact, I haven't seen him since. Then you have Victor running around here, breaking every rule he wants while the instructors are all over the rest of us. Again, we go into spar today, and the instructors clearly tell us the head and groin are off limits, and what does Victor do? Fred is within seconds of beating him, and Victor punches him square in the face. I saw the look on your face, but the other two didn't say boo. It's screwy. I don't know how you expect the rest of us to follow any rules. And here I sit, technically I didn't do anything wrong, and I'm being threatened with the boot? I didn't threaten you. You said Sergeant Smith thinks I should get the boot. I'd say that's a threat. Lewis hit the stop button and turned to face Hurley, with arms folded. He said, That was one of the more difficult sessions I've conducted. Do you know why? Hurley shook his head. Because I agreed with virtually everything he said. I love this so much. Okay, so if that's pretty clear that Victor was an instructor, like he was in with them. He knew he was part of the process. I got it before it was confirmed. I'm so proud of myself. So I realized it basically when Mitch realized it, and I don't know if anybody else has done that. I'm probably just celebrating for nothing. But I'm happy, okay? I was like, nah, that's not it. That's not what's gonna happen. Victor's not. But I said it anyway because I had this feeling. And I was right! Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and put the next chapter in the next video because this video is 20 minutes long. I'm juiced. I'm like super pumped. Okay, next chapter.